You want to eat because, of course, dieting is really hard. So as soon as you get hungry, you go,
well, my body's telling me to eat, so I should eat.
And you can do that. Of course you can. Simon Miller, the bored a-hole here, and when it comes to lifting weights, fitness, and going to the gym, if we break it right down and try and be as simple as possible, some people are trying to maintain, but most people are either trying to put on size or they're trying to lose weight, they're trying to lose fat, and it's actually sometimes the latter which throws people the most, because we all know it's calories in, calories out, and you need to get into a calorie deficit. 9 times out of 10, especially with people when they first start doing this, they assume that they are eating enough calories in order to start losing the weight, but actually they're not. And always remember to keep it that simple. Don't get on the scale on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and get to Thursday and go, well, I haven't lost any weight. What the hell's going on here? Do it over a longer period. Do it over a period of a week. So let's say you start losing weight on the 1st of May, and that's when you start dropping your calories down. And then you get to the end of May and you step on the scales and you haven't lost any weight. That is a time when you have to start going, okay, I haven't reduced my calories enough. And that could be for many reasons. Maybe you're not actually being as active as you were before, and therefore you need less calories in order to get to your baseline, and it's all mass at the end of the day. It's all about making sure that, again, you're burning more than you are consuming. But I feel like what a lot of people do is they just assume that they're in a calorie deficit and they don't actually keep an eye on this stuff. So make sure you're writing every single thing down, not just what you're doing in the gym, but what you're eating, when you're eating it, how it makes you feel, and yes, that number on the scale. And something else I'd always tell everybody to do, so you have like 2 numbers that you can marry up with each other, is take waist measurements. One of the first things that happens when you sign up for a personal trainer is they say, well, what's the sign of your biceps, and what's the sign of the waist, and what's the sign of the quads? And I don't worry about those other ones for now because we're trying to keep things as simple as possible, but take waist measurements, because if you step on the scales and that's dropped by 3 or 4 pounds and you had a 38-inch waist and now it's a 37-inch waist, well, you can go, all right, I may not be seeing it and I may not be feeling it, but quite clearly, the facts are in my favor. Which also ties into the second point that I want to talk about, and that is, and I read this on an article the other day, and it kind of confused me, it kind of baffled me. It essentially said, if you're feeling hungry, you are not eating enough. And I kind of stared at it like, no, that's not the case at all. Again, let's break it down as simple as we possibly can. If you have been eating 3,000 calories a day, and all of a sudden you're eating 2,500 calories a day, your body is used to eating 3,000 calories a day. I know, it's like the end of a Sherlock Holmes novel. So given that you are now in a 500 calorie surplus to what you were doing before, not surplus, deficit to what you were doing before, stupid brain, it's been a long old day, of course you're going to be hungry because you're not putting as much food in your tum-tum. Hunger does not mean, well, now you're allowed to go and eat a bunch of food. If anything, it should be telling you, great, there are active changes in my physique right now, and the brain and the stomach and everything else are talking to each other because it's realized that I'm feeding it less. And to me, it is just an excuse. I don't want to be that guy, but it really is. You want to eat because, of course, dieting is really hard. So as soon as you get hungry, you go,
well, my body's telling me to eat, so I should eat.
And you can do that. Of course you can, but you have to make choices. What are you trying to achieve here? Are you trying to stay satiated and filled up, which is perfectly fine, you're allowed, it's your life, or are you trying to get the body and the physique that you want? And if it's this aisle that we are going to stroll down around some friends, you got to stick to it, and you just got to accept that hunger is a byproduct of that. Now, there's ways that you can fill yourself up. For example, go eat a big bag of spinach, and I bet you won't be hungry after that. But otherwise, before you start any weight loss program, just accept it. I'm going to have to feel hungry, and yes, that's going to suck. Also, make sure that you keep an eye out for the more trivial things, I suppose. Now, as human beings, we struggle when someone pays us a compliment. But if you haven't been getting, certain nice words from a certain person, and then all of a sudden they go, oh, hey, Barry, doing great, Bears, you've lost weight, make sure you put that down in your book with notes. Now, maybe they are just being a pleasant person, or maybe they do know that you're dieting, so they want to be kind, but actually, maybe it ties into what you're trying to do. And this can be positive affirmation, which is so important when you're trying to stick to a diet, which can be really hard. And make sure that you sort of combine that too with how, your clothes feel, for example. That's a great way to throw in there. So right now, I'll use me as an example. I can't train right now. If you're a long-term viewer, you're bored of hearing this, I know, but it just works right now. Can't train, I've got a broken hand, you can't tell, but I really can't. Can't put any force to it. It's a nightmare. I'm trying to get it fixed. And I have lost a ton of weight to the point I wear this blue hoodie. No, that's been up the whole time. That'll annoy people. But I wear this blue hoodie and I can tell that I have more room because very sadly it's been 7 weeks now. So of course I've lost muscle mass. I haven't stimulated those muscles. So eventually, because life is horrible, they have wilted away. Now this is information that I don't want, but at least it tells me and I use that and I know where I am. So make sure you do the same thing. If you've put on a pair of jeans and they used to be really, really tight and all of a sudden they're a bit looser, absolutely, there it is. It means you're heading in the right direction. Now, you are going to hit obstacles and you're going to hit hurdles from now and then. It doesn't mean you throw everything out the pram and go crazy. But it does, when you hit these problems, you can then go back into this magical book that we've made. You can go, well, I did this and I did that. Maybe I need to go back to the 17th of May where everything are going right. But it is just not a process of going, well, I've started eating less food, so therefore everything must be going right. No, all that's going to happen when you do that is you get 6 months down the line and you won't be where you are. And then you'll be sad and then you'll start eating again and it's just a horrible roller coaster. And don't be surprised either if you start to think about food more. I mean, that stands to reason. Here we have 3 mascots, for example. We're going to do this like a magic trick. We have Gerald the fitness mascot, we have Stanley the Gaines giraffe, and we have Oberon the octopus. If you watch 10 of my videos, then you watch the 13th one, because I don't know what happened to 11 and 12, and all of a sudden Stanley is gone, all you will think when you notice it is, where the hell did the giraffe go, and why hasn't he mentioned it? We'll bring him back because he's scared of the dark and I'm worried about his eyesight. So if all of a sudden you're not eating as much food as you're used to and your body knows that, do you know what's going to be happening? You're going to think about food a lot. And you're going to think about food constantly, especially if you get to the point where you want to cut out cheat meals. Because you're like, man, I'm really struggling here. Sometimes you have to do that. You've got to nail into your diet and you've got to plow through. But it's like when you break up with a girl or break up with a boy or break up with your partner, even if it was you that was instigating the breakup, as soon as they're gone, you're like, oh, maybe I want them back. Because again, that's what we do. We move something out of our life and all of a sudden we want it back in, and it's the same with food. So you just have to accept that again, and you have to be ready for it. And I hate sayings like this, but this one does work. Like, prepare to fail, fail to prepare, whichever way around it is. The point is, if you prep all this beforehand, it won't come as a surprise, and you're more than likely to stick to it. And you will start feeling different as well. There's loads of videos about this. You type in anything when people are talking about fat loss. Some people say, oh, I'm a little bit more grumpy. Some people say, oh, I get cold all the time. Some people say, I can't sleep at night. Some people say, oh, I'm more tired. If you are noticing these changes in you, again, we're going to run this into the ground, jot them all down, because it means that maybe when you are going through a poor week where you don't think you're making much progress, look, do you want to be moody? No, but you can go, oh my gosh, maybe when I enter a calorie deficit to where my body is making changes, I'm just a piece of trash. Like when I trained for my bodybuilding competition, the thing that happened in the last week when I was basically eating nothing is I was super duper emotional. That ties into the endocrine system, because when you're not giving it what it needs, it just flies off the handle for some reason. But that can happen to anyone. Sometimes it happens to people at 15% body fat. Sometimes it happens to people when they get to 6% body fat. And I know that when I get to super duper low body fat, I am like, oh, I'm not as hot as I was usually, especially because I don't have any hair. I have basically gotten rid of all my insulation. So take all of these things, put them in a little package, put them in a bundle, and don't lie to yourself, I suppose, is what I'm trying to get across here. Don't pretend just because, oh, well, I don't have meal number 5 doesn't have potato in it anymore. I cut out the carbohydrates. Well, it wasn't enough, and I'm sorry, and your body has betrayed you. But it's true. You know you're in a calorie deficit when you are losing weight. And what usually happens is people do it for 3 weeks, they lose a little bit of weight, and they're like, well, why aren't I losing any more weight? Because you've got to drop more food. Seriously, it doesn't mean you have to go crazy and have 1 calorie a day. Don't go nuts. Always start as small as humanly possible. So within a week, if you just want to drop, I don't know, 50 calories a day, you could try that. Again, you're going to be really eking this out, but there's nothing wrong with that unless you're trying to train for a competition, but that's a whole different set of rules, as we know. But I get a lot of people messaging me, and I really appreciate it, saying, Simon, I'm not losing any weight. And so it's like, okay, well, send me, what you've been doing for the last, few weeks. And it's always the same. They have this initial drop of calories, and then they just stop and assume, well, if I eat like this for a few months, I'll get to where I can be. Now, of course, there are other ways to do this. Of course there is. If you increase the amount of activity you're doing a day, so you're burning more, you could eat more. You've got to find that ratio. But 9 times out of 10, people actually aren't burning as many calories as they think, which is why it always makes sense when it comes to food. And also, if you do too much cardio, which some people also do, they get obsessed like doing 2, 3, 4 hours a day, and you're not a competitive athlete, usually your body just starts shutting down because, again, you're not actually feeding yourself and you're not getting the nutrition that you need. So it's hard. It's difficult, and I don't think people say that enough. All we get on social media is get up at 3 a.m. and do a big run and then drink some water and then suffer for the rest of the day. You don't need to suffer, but it does take a little bit of effort. So no, there's every chance that you're not actually in a calorie deficit. So sit down, work everything out you've been doing, and make these changes, and hopefully soon you'll be at one. Now, please do like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Click the bell ding ding to other videos going live. There will be another video on the screen. Please do give it a click. GrillerMind.com/Simon. These are supplements that I use, and you can use the code Simon to get 10% off. There is a link in the description below, as there is for everything I'm about to talk about, including Greg Doucette's Power 13 cookbook. I'm on Instagram and Twitter at Simon316. Patreon.com/Simon316. SimonMiller.BigCartel.com. And I'm on Cameo if you want a shout out. We could even talk about calorie deficits. Otherwise, I appreciate the click. You take care. See you soon.